They told her to smile and take the jokes. Instead, Karoline Leavitt handed Jimmy Kimmel the most humiliating defeat in late-night history, using nothing but a highlighted printout and icy calm. As the clip racked up 50 million views overnight, one thing became clear. The era of unchallenged media gatekeepers is over. What happens when a young, unapologetic political outsider steps onto the most hostile stage in late-night television, armed with nothing but cold, hard facts, a spine of steel, and the willingness to speak truth that powerful people have spent years carefully avoiding? The answer: a seismic, culture-shifting moment that ripped the mask off modern media right before millions of stunned viewers. Karoline Leavitt wasn't just another sacrificial lamb being trotted out for Jimmy Kimmel's liberal lion. She was a tactical strike disguised as a guest spot. And when she detonated, the explosion didn't just take down Kimmel's carefully curated persona. It exposed the rotten foundations of an entire industry built on manufactured outrage, political puppetry, and the arrogant assumption that truth could always be drowned out by laughter. The real question isn't whether this moment went viral. It's why this confrontation shook America so deeply that even people who'd never heard of Karoline suddenly found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about the shows. They watch every night. From the moment Karoline received that slickly worded invitation from Kimmel's producers, she understood the unspoken rules of the game they were playing. The email oozed with the kind of performative open-mindedness that Hollywood reserves for conservatives they intend to use as props. Phrases like hearing diverse perspectives and understanding young voters practically dripped with condescension. But Karoline wasn't some naive, small-town girl who'd be dazzled by the bright lights. She'd spent years studying media manipulation tactics, and she recognized this for what it was: a setup designed to make her either look like an extremist or a punchline. The car ride to the studio should have been her first clue about how the night would go. The driver's playlist wasn't just background noise, it was psychological priming, a steady stream of smug, sarcastic comedy tracks carefully curated to reinforce the show's worldview before she even set foot on stage. Backstage, the tension was so thick you could choke on it. Assistants smiled with their mouths but not their eyes. Producers dropped passive-aggressive warnings disguised as hospitality. "No phones on stage, sweetie. Standard policy." And the makeup artist's silent treatment spoke volumes about how welcome she really was in this den of coastal elitism. When Karoline walked onto that stage under the searing studio lights, she might as well have been stepping into a gladiator arena where the audience had already been prepped to root for her demise. The applause was the kind you give a doomed contestant on a reality show: polite, pitying, and utterly devoid of genuine warmth. Jimmy's opening salvo, that patronizing quip about her age and supposed lack of experience, wasn't just a joke. It was a power play straight from the liberal playbook. Establish the conservative as ignorant before they can even speak. But Karoline had spent her entire political career being underestimated, and she fired back with surgical precision. "I was in high school when the people laughing in this room right now were making decisions that bankrupted my generation's future." The audience's nervous silence said everything. This wasn't the compliant foil they'd been promised. Then came the moment that would be dissected in media ethics classes for decades. With the calm of a prosecutor delivering a closing argument, Karoline reached beneath her chair and produced a single damning sheet of paper, its highlighted lines and meticulous annotations gleaming under the studio lights. "On October 12th, she began, her voice steady as a sniper's breath, "you delivered a monologue decrying anti-science Republicans that matched, word for word, a strategic memo circulated by the Red River Initiative, a dark money group funded by the same billionaires whose policies your show pretends to critique." The camera caught the exact millisecond Jimmy's smirk died, his pupils dilating, his fingers twitching toward the water glass like a man suddenly desperate for cover. His attempted recovery, a weak joke about conspiracy theories, only dug the hole deeper, as Karoline, still eerily composed, dismantled his facade. "I don't think you're taking orders. I think you're taking scripts without asking who wrote them." What followed wasn't just bad television. It was the implosion of an entire media archetype. Jimmy's mask slipped completely. His voice cracked as he demanded the segment end. His hands trembled as he gestured wildly to the control booth, his famous "aw shucks" persona replaced by the panicked rage of a man who'd never been challenged in his own arena. Every dismissive eye roll, every condescending interruption, every desperate attempt to paint Karoline as hysterical only proved her point more powerfully, because while he screamed, she simply sat there, a living embodiment of the old adage that if you're explaining, you're losing. When she finally rose to leave, not in defeat, but because there was nothing left to say, the audience's stunned silence was louder than any applause. And in that silence, the cameras kept rolling, capturing the unvarnished truth. The Emperor had no clothes and America was watching. By sunrise, the fallout was nuclear. The clip, shot on smuggled phones despite the show's desperate no-recording rule, had metastasized across every platform, morphing from entertainment gossip into a full-blown referendum on media integrity. Former writers began leaking like sieves, their anonymous confessions painting a picture of an industry where independent comedy was often anything but. Academics dusted off old studies about media manipulation and found terrifying new relevance. Even liberals who despised Karoline's politics found themselves uncomfortably questioning why their favorite shows always seemed to punch in one direction. And through it all, Karoline herself remained silent. Her lone tweet, "Truth doesn't panic," becoming the rallying cry for a public suddenly hungry for authenticity in an age of manufactured narratives. So here's the uncomfortable question keeping media executives awake at night. Why did this moment, this specific collision between a nobody congresswoman and a late-night king, rupture the public's trust so completely? Was it the raw spectacle of seeing a media darling lose his cool when facts replaced fluff? The generational shock of watching a Gen Z woman outmaneuver a boomer icon on his own turf? Or the horrifying realization that the jokes we've been laughing at for years might have been written by the same shadowy operatives we claim to despise? Whatever the answer, one thing became undeniable that night. The age of blind faith and celebrity pundits is over, and the next time a talk show host tries to sell you outrage as entertainment, millions of Americans will remember the night Karoline Leavitt looked behind the curtain and showed us all what was really there. We're living in the aftermath of this media earthquake, so let's hear it. Was this a fleeting scandal, or the beginning of the end for scripted outrage masquerading as comedy? Sound off in the comments, but bring receipts.